Please introduce yourself and you may start your presentation afterwards.
Good morning, my name is Hasson.
I'm Betsy Cunningham.
And I'm Briana Gonzalez. We'd like to acknowledge Claudia Payton for guiding us throughout this process, and we'd like to thank all of you for being here as we're excited to share our research. To begin, if we as occupational therapists begin to use touch in a caring manner, in time we can make a difference in our culture. This was stated by Joy Huss in her lecture, Touch with Care or Caring Touch, which greatly inspired our research. The purpose of our study is to understand the impact and perception of caring touch in interventions by occupational therapists with clients with dementia. Dementia is an all-encompassing term to describe a range of symptoms including a decline in attention, memory, and cognitive skills. The literature focuses on three major symptoms: agitation, chronic pain, and depression, and how each could be alleviated by touch. Firstly, agitation is present in approximately 90% of individuals with advanced dementia. In their study, Wang and Herman found that when healing touch was implemented in intervention, there was a significant decline in agitation. Similarly, a study by Hicks, Moore, and Robertson found that when utilizing massaging and as a relaxation technique, there was a reduced level of agitation in their clients with dementia.
Moving on to chronic pain, a study conducted by Kapoor and Orr found that touch promoted stress relief, relaxation of muscles, relief of swelling, joint mobilization, and overall significant pain relief for its participants with dementia. Lastly, in regards to depression, a study conducted by Gellis, McClive, Reed, and Brown found that depressive symptoms decreased with the use of daily massages. And as the study explained, it is important to look at depression as it can increase the mortality of the client, reduce his or her quality of life, and or increase caregiver burden. We needed to understand the current occupational therapy interventions that are currently being used with this population. A recent study found that most occupational therapists spent minimal time per week providing one-on-one interventions for clients with advanced dementia. These interventions typically focus on maintaining client skills, environmental modifications, activity-based and task-oriented interventions, as well as community-based interventions. And while these interventions have been favored by occupational therapists, there is an evident gap in the literature surrounding the importance of caring touch as an intervention strategy for clients with dementia.
Because of this gap in the literature, we formed this research question. How do OT practitioners perceive the impact of touch in clients with dementia? We define caring touch as spontaneous and effective. This includes hugging, stroking, squeezing, or massaging. Caring touch does not include functional touch, such as transferring, grooming, or instructional touch. We used a qualitative research method to gather subjective experiences from our participants about caring touch. More specifically, transcendental phenomenology was used to analyze raw descriptions from our participants, bracket any personal judgments, and to review the true essence of the phenomenon from their points of view. Our inclusion criteria confirmed that our participants had a clear understanding of the English language, were California state licensed, had a minimum of 6 months experience, and consistently treated clients with dementia. Our flyer was distributed by our key informant via snowball sampling.
Here's an illustration of our participant demographics. We recruited a total of 7 participants, 3 of which were female and 4 of which were male. Of these participants, 6 were registered occupational therapists and 1 was an occupational therapy assistant. All the participants worked in a variety of settings, including acute rehabilitation facilities, skilled nursing facilities, and nursing homes. We collected our data through 2 60-minute face-to-face semi-structured interviews, all of which were audio recorded, transcribed verbatim, and took place in multiple settings. Regarding our ethical considerations, all researchers received NIH certification, IRB approval was attained, all participants provided informed consent, the data was saved in a password-protected USB drive, and lastly, participant identities were kept confidential. As for trustworthiness, we addressed credibility through triangulation and member checking. We addressed transferability through thick descriptions, and dependability took place when we each coded independently and then compared with each other. And lastly, confirmability was addressed through a reflexive approach.
we used Mustaka's 7 steps as our method of data reduction. This began with extracting significant statements from the transcribed interviews. We then formulated meanings from those statements, then developed themes, and finally created exhaustive descriptions that encompass the essence of caring touch. We would like to share with you a few significant statements from our study that we found to be powerful. For instance, their body language opens up more. They start reciprocating touch. It facilitates a connection between the therapist and the patient. They become calm, seem less confused, agitation will decrease, and finally, you are going to have better outcomes because you are going to get them to engage more. During the data reduction process, we found that it was important to separate the OT practitioner's perspectives regarding caring touch from the client's responses to receiving caring touch, as perceived by the OTs. These 4 themes represent the OT practitioner's perspectives regarding caring touch during intervention. The OTs expressed that caring touch often has positive outcomes, such as putting the client at ease, providing them with a sense of safety, eliciting a calming and caring and comforting effect, as well as making the client feel more human and less like an object. The next theme is individualization. The OTs personalize their use of touch depending on that individual client. So the frequency of touch used during intervention was dependent on client factors such as the mood of the client or the severity of their dementia. Additionally, the clients had to be read appropriately by the therapist in order to avoid possible aggression or sexual inappropriateness from the client. In regards to rapport building, the OTs described caring touch as a therapeutic use of self that facilitated the therapist-patient bond and was a way to demonstrate respect towards their clients.
Lastly, the OT practitioner's disposition. We found that an OT's use of touch in their personal life translated to their use of caring touch in interventions. Also, regardless of the comfort level that an OT had with using touch, they continued to use it in interventions because they saw its benefits. These 5 themes are related to how the patient responds to caring touch as perceived by the OT. The first is that our participants said that the majority of patients are accepting of caring touch. Next, our participants stated that patients respond better to tactile cues than to verbal cues, and also that patients engage more in interventions when they are prompted by touch.
As for positive responses, the participants perceived the patients to show more reciprocation of touch, open body language, increased attention and responsiveness to therapy, as well as increased participation and engagement in intervention. Although not as common, they also perceived negative responses to take place when the clients misinterpreted the caring touch and reacted in a combative and defensive manner. Lastly, gender-related hesitancy was prominent. They found that patients are often hesitant to receive caring touch from the opposite sex. However, they also found that they prefer to receive caring touch from a female practitioner rather than a male practitioner. Lastly, throughout our interview process, we found a pattern among the participants regarding the terms client and patient. In our studies, the term client is used to encompass the humanistic approach of occupational therapy. However, only 1 of the 7 participants utilized the term client, a person, or a resident, while the rest consistently used the term patient.
Our study provided various implications for the field of occupational therapy. The first implication is that caring touch should be explored with other populations. Next, OT should increase the implementation of caring touch in therapy because it leads to greater engagement in therapy and therefore leads to greater goal attainment. Lastly, our participants stated that caring touch is underutilized in therapy and therefore education, advocacy, and awareness should be embedded into curriculum and in training in support of the use of caring touch. One limitation of our study is that it is specific to our 7 participants. Also, because we are still in the early stages of our academic journey, our ability to interpret the findings was limited. Our topic also inspired future research topics. These include exploring other populations, ages, and conditions, exploring our collateral finding of client versus patient, looking at the OT's level of comfort while using touch, and also looking at the differences between genders and their use of touch. We'd like to thank you again for taking the time to listen to our study. We'll open it up for questions now.